Okay, we're here with Rav Dan Tiomkin. Very kindly let us come to his home to meet with him and to talk to him about this very important topic of bullying. He is an expert advisor to parents and educators about a lot of different topics, mainly the phenomena of how it is that sometimes children from homes often end up moving away from that path and what some of the causes might be. So, Rav Dan, thank you very much for having us in your home.
Thank you for coming.
So I guess the first question we could ask almost provocatively is, bullying, is it such a big deal? We were all at school, we saw it happen, maybe it happened to us, maybe we sometimes were involved, whatever it was. Okay, like kids get over it and they survive it. Why do we make such a big deal about bullying?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. Introduction. About 9 years ago, here in Israel, there was a very, very big, famous guy called Rav Avraham Abutbul. He was a Baal Tshuva, Breslever, real tzaddik, Oved Hashem. He was a serious guy. He was 50 something, had a big family. Many people like to consult with him about different topics because he was a really wise man. And one day, his behavior changed. Until that day, he was very stable and wise, but he became very, very impulsive. All of a sudden, no one understood what's going on with him. He became so impulsive, and he started fighting with everyone. And he started fighting with his wife, and eventually they divorced. And no one could understand what's going on with him. Also, at that time, he had some headaches, big headaches. He went to the doctor and got examined, CT, MRI, and they found out he has a tumor in his brain. Now, today we know how to examine the brain, which part in the brain is responsible of what. So, there's a part in the brain that's responsible of the memory. It's the hard disk. If this part of the brain gets damaged, then there's a problem with the memory. And the different part of the brain is in charge of the senses. We know exactly which part of the brain sees and smells and hears. And there's another part of the brain around here. It's called executive function. This part of the brain is in charge of everything that's long-term. Delaying satisfactions. Gratifications, and planning ahead, all kind of activity that's for the long run, for the long term, this part of the brain is responsible of. And Rav Avraham Abutbul, the tumor in his brain was exactly there. So it's like a truck that said the brakes are not working. It's not that he has more Yetzer Hara, it's not that he has more different character. It's just a physical, technical, medical issue that the part of the brain that's responsible of the brakes is not working. Now today we know, how do I know it? Because when they checked it and when they saw the tumor, they took him to a surgery here in Hadassah Hospital in Yerushalayim. And the surgery went well, Baruch Hashem, and they took off the tumor. And when he was itoshesh, when
he came
around, his temper became regular, like he was before the tumor. And in the hospital, he got remarried again with his wife. Now, why do I tell you this story? Because today we know that this part of the brain, the executive function, is not only affected by tumors, which is quite rare, Baruch Hashem. This part of the brain is also affected by all kinds of different phenomena, and the most severe one is an illness, mental illness, which is called post-trauma, PTSD, post-trauma stress disorder. What is post-trauma stress disorder? If someone is affected by an event or a series of events, when he feels helpless or molested or can't control his future, then there's a whole neurological explanation, but the bottom line, the brain shuts off this part of the brain of the executive function. Now, in most cases, it's something we don't know of. Molestation, but in some cases, bullying is the reason for the post-trauma. So, every soul is sensitive in a different way. Some souls are very sensitive. And when they get bullied, they don't grow from that. It's called post-trauma growth. They're not growing from that, but they're shutting down this part of the brain. This is why it's so severe. This is why as parents, as teachers, as society, we have to be very, very careful about this phenomenon, because it's not, he'll get by, he'll get along. I suffered from it, my friend suffered from it, everyone suffers from it. No, it's not true. This is not the healthy environment we want our kids to grow in, because some souls can grow from it, but some souls can crash. And you see the results only afterwards. And we don't want that, so we have to do everything in our power to make more awareness for this. This is why I wanted to participate, and I'm happy to participate, even though my poor accent. I think it's very, very important, because sometimes when we see the results, we see the symptoms, and we're all crying, how my kid was so smart, he is so smart and so cute and so good midas. How did he become a monster, waking up late and sleeping all day, waking up all night, hanging out? How did he become a kid at risk? He grew up in a good home. I know it, it's my home. So how did he become? What happened to him? This is what we're asking afterwards. After this part of the brain is shut down, there's a whole kind of, usually, smartphone, hanging out all night, bad friends, bad devices, and today the street is much more accessible than it used to be when we were kids. So the part when we have to be very, very careful is before we get the post-trauma. And this is bullying. Small things. Sometimes it's bullying, sometimes it's all the kids are not talking for one of the kids because of the bullying. And we don't know, there's different souls are sensitive in different ways. And some souls, for them it's nothing. But for others, it could be devastating. So this is why we have to be so careful and so aware of this phenomenon, because there are things we can do as society, as teachers, as parents. If there are good relations with the kid, then he'll talk to us. If we are too critic in the house, so he wouldn't feel free to talk with us and to share, because what did you do? Why don't you have enough friends? Why don't they come? Why don't you ever? Why don't they ever? Why? If he feels all the time so much criticism, then he won't share, and then he suffers. But we want to be his best friends. It's hard because teenagers and adults are not always best friends. But if the environment in the house, that he can talk with us about everything, and he can share, and we won't blame him because we love him, and we love him, this is obvious, but he knows that we love him. It's two different things. If he feels our love, there are different ways to show love. Some kid wants more respect, some kid needs more hugs and physical touch, some kids needs more attention and quality time together. It's different. But if I'm tuned to see what my kid really needs and really likes and really wants from me as parent, and I'm very, very creative in finding those times and finding those places where it can be, then if something happens, I'll be the first to know and not the last. And this is very, very important, because this is not bonus, it's not nice to have. This is so essential to being a good parent, because if something happens and my kid is being either molested or bullied or whatever, I want to be the first one to know about it.
You mentioned then a few times that we experience this when we were younger, or the parent says to the kid, why can't you do this? It sounds a little bit that sometimes maybe it feels like there's a generational thing. Did something change, or were there always people in society that were more sensitive and they were affected by bullying more than others, and some of us did or didn't notice it more than others? Or maybe as a society, are people, for maybe a whole range of reasons, more sensitive in general than they used to be? Are we more prone to this part of the brain damage than we used to be? Or are we just more aware of it now?
It's a good question. They ask this question a lot about ADHD. What this generation happened to this generation? Eventually they put the Ritalin in the water like the fluoride. Fluoride. So I didn't hear one good answer that sums up the whole thing. Some say it's what we eat, some say it's too many screens or the social media, some say it's over-awareness more than other generations. Some say it's the class. Back in old days, there was a teacher. It wasn't even a school. He sat in the shul. He sat in the synagogue with 6, 7 kids, same level. Someone was too hyperactive. He sent him out for a few minutes. He played with the chickens and with the donkey and with the whale and with the stones, and then he came back. There was no... Today we have cages, walls, fluorescents above, and the structure of school is too demanding and too it invites those kind of behaviors.
And bigger classes as well.
Bigger
so
classes
less
as
attention
well.
for the...
Yes, and the teacher, they're good people, but they're all wore out. And they're too many years, again and again and again. So, but the best answer I heard to your question, I heard from Rabbi Zohar. Rabbi Zohar said, he was a big Mekubal. No, I'm not sure many people knew it, but he was very, very big in Kabbalah. And he showed me, Harav Eliashiv, the grandfather of Harav Yosef Shalom Eliashiv, wrote a book called Leshem Shvo V'Achlama. And in his book, he writes that we are all souls, and we came here to pick up sparks of holiness. And some souls have a different journey to walk through. And therefore, their journey makes them go down a little bit to pick up sparks from the wells and rise them up eventually. Now, how does the Kodesh Baruch Hu send those souls to their journey? He doesn't send them WhatsApp message. He sends them all kind of English letters: ADHD, ADD, ODD, PTSD, ASD, FBI, CIA. I don't care about the letters. I mean, the letters are true, but it's just a way to how Kodesh Baruch Hu sends those souls to their journey. Bottom line, there are so many souls who are much more sensitive than old days, and therefore it's really demanding for us as society to be aware of that.
So without necessarily pinpointing a cause, but we are recognizing the fact that it's not that we're more necessarily aware of it now. There is maybe a new thing, maybe compared to the generation that we were when we were younger, but we have to be aware of those things if we want to help the people.
Yes, more sensitive souls can be post-traumatized from small things. Back in the old days, you have to be a victim of a war and to see bodies all over you to get post-traumatized. Today, if someone bullies you, it's not something I say. It's scientifically proved. This part of the brain shuts down. You can see fMRI of the brain. This part of the brain doesn't work of people who got bullied or molested. So it's amazing to see how sensitive kids are these days. But I want to add one more thing that, again, researchers show that social media made things much worse. Because if back in old days, in the classroom, 20 kids, okay, so one was bullying another, so 18 kids, other kids saw it. It's not good, but it's not that bad. Today, if someone is bullied in front of the whole school, in front of his whole neighborhood, it's much worse. And there are researchers that show that since, I think, 2007 or 2009, the number of kids who are suffering from דיכאון,
depression,
or חרדות,
anxieties,
or אובדנות, kill themselves.
right,
Suicidal, rose up very, very high. And it's not one small research. The Americans like to statistics, and they all the time examine themselves. So there are facts, there are graphs. You can see how the graph for 50 years, more or less, it's even. And then from 2009, it's starting to rise up. What happened in 2009? The smartphone became available to every teenager. And when you see others succeed, because everyone puts in their status or in their story all their successes, so if you're not that good, then you're envy. Or if you're being bullied, it's in front of everyone. So it makes things much, much worse. So the combination of souls who are much more sensitive and the fact that it's not only in a familiar zone, but it's in the Reshut HaRabim, everyone can see, make things much, much worse. And that forces us, as parents, as teachers, to be more aware of that.
So what are some of the psychological or emotional effects? A person gets bullied, maybe a person is the bully, but let's focus a little bit on the person who gets bullied. What are some of the emotional and psychological effects that will happen to this person? You said some part of their brain may even shut down. And how is that going to be affecting them in their lives? What are they going to stop being able to do? And maybe part of that question also, what are the signs that we as parents, educators should be looking out for?
Yeah. I think that the biggest sign is that you're thinking short term. You're thinking survival. You're thinking much less about the future. The future looks very, very, very far. And you just want to survive the day. You just want to survive. People let go. And when you talk with those kids about, I'm not talking about Olam Haba, next world. Even when you talk about with those kids about a college degree, wow, that's so far, so far. What are you doing? If you won't go to sleep, then you won't get up tomorrow and you have a big exam. Why? Go to sleep already. No, don't worry. Everything will be fine. I'll get along. When you see a sudden change in the behavior, either someone is being much more inside or external behavior, then it's a red light. Does it mean necessarily that he's getting bullied? I'm not sure. It could be a red sign to many other phenomena as well. Sometimes his body is changing and he doesn't know. Sometimes he got rejected from a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or I don't know. So many things can cause a change. So again, I'm talking about the solution. I think if we are in good relationship, there is a good connection between us and our kids, then this is the best way for us to know and to talk. And this is why we have to be very, very creative and very, very effective ways to think about all the time. How can I make quality times? Sometimes it's not in the house when there's a laundry machine around. Our eyes are not focusing well, and we are so many things to do and so many tasks to do. We're not focused, and they can feel that. Sometimes when we are outside of the house, relaxed, I'm not saying near a beach, sea, fire, but sometimes, yes, we can do barbecue late at night, to go to the beach and do barbecue. We don't have to have a big celebration for it. Or small other reasons to go to quality time together and to talk. Sometimes when we share, then he would feel open to share. This is it's contagious. It's contagious. When I'm sharing, you're sharing. So we have to be smart and find good ways to influence. And bottom line, to make sure that if there things are happening, we want to know about them.
Okay, so spoken a bit about bullying and about some of the causes and some of the ways in which sometimes we can be better role models or good role models as parents, educators, communicating. But in terms of someone's already being bullied, we've got an issue now. What types of interventions exist? What type of paths should people be looking to follow to help deal with the situation now that it's already arisen?
I think something in the human nature wants to get along by ourselves. I know if you remember, in the time there was no Waze, so about 50% of the population didn't want to ask for help. Even though you didn't know the way, the wife always said, ask someone. No, I am good, I'm good. I think I know this area. And eventually you sign someone to do like this. Remember this sign? Take off the window. Yeah, no one knows. We're too old. We need help. Sometimes we need help. Even though it's not easy for us. It's not comfort for us. It takes us off our comfort zone because we want to look for others at our best. But when I go to a doctor, then I don't show him my good side, and I don't try to impress him with my good manners and great knowledge that I have. When I go to a doctor, I show him what's not good because I need his help, because he learned 7 years how to become a doctor, and he knows and he has practice. And I show him my defaults because I want his help, his professional help. And exactly the same with mental illness. It's not nice. We want to look at our best. But if I'm facing a problem and I'm suffering, there is no mitzvah to suffer. And there are people who have a lot of practice in those issues, and they know to give me good advices while I'm in this situation and when I'm recovering or when I have the post-trauma. I need someone. It's not enough just to talk to the kid and tell him, hey, it's not your fault. You did everything okay. He's the one to blame here. Okay, but he said things and the damage occurred. It happened. You see it even in the Torah. The Torah talks about a girl that got molested. The Torah says it's as if someone kills someone. And the Torah doesn't exaggerate. It's very accurate. Sometimes when someone got bullied, sensitive soul, for him it's as if he got murdered. Something in the brain shuts off, and it's not just wise words enough to recover here. So we need professional help, and there are professional people who knows. So if it's post-trauma, it has to be someone who professionalized in PTSD, in post-trauma stress disorder. And if it's one step before, then emotional help. And there are so many people who are good at it.
How do we diagnose that? How do I know if someone's got PTSD or if they're one stage before? Like when you go to a doctor, they do an ivchun, they do like an evaluation. They say, oh, you need to go to this specialist or whatever it is. What do we do in the world of mental health? How do we assess someone, what they need?
The best solution is to go to someone who knows also post-trauma, because he has all the tools. Most of those specialists are quite busy though. So if you have to go to someone, you can talk. There's always the guy in the neighborhood, in the Akshiva center, in the whatever center there is, you can talk to. And
get advice.
And get advice. Because they know. Again, when you're facing with the illness which is physical, it's very easy. It's very easy because you know you can ask for help, and there are many people, when it comes to mental illness, then it's not that easy. Women after birth got depression after birth.
Postnatal depression.
Nobody talks about it. So you can't really talk about, hey, who can I talk to? Because you're shy and maybe it's my fault. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? I have a new baby. Why am I so depressed right now? It doesn't make sense. It's an illness. And like any illness, there are professional specialists you can consult with. And the same way here. If you talk with 2 or 3 people from your neighborhood, from people who knows around, if you can't, call Akshiva Center. There are experts, they're professionals, this is what they do. They'll get you to the right person who can help you go through with it and recover from the damage, the awful damage that bullying causes.
So maybe this point is important to ask. In the religious community, is it important in your mind that we talk more openly about many of these issues so that it becomes normal? Because as you said, everyone knows if your throat's hurting you, everyone knows what to do. You go to the doctor because it's already a well-trodden path. Maybe these paths. People want to be still independent because it's not spoken about enough. I'm asking, do you think maybe as a community we need to be more vocal, maybe in schools and at home, to parents, to educators about these things?
Totally. This is one of the reasons I'm so happy that we're doing this video. Because if you raise the awareness for it, then people who are suffering will know about it and go to get help. And it's true about the person who are bullied and for the persons who are bullying others, because it also comes for they got bullied themselves or they're acting out because they feel insecure. There are ways to help those kids. When you're very, very young, you see the world as good and bad. It's more complicated than that. And when you know it and you have the right tools to assist, we are all very, very holy people. Yes, we are all Jews, holy people. We are good. We want to do good. And when sometimes something goes wrong, it shows that we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And when there's a problem, we have to fix it. But the source of it, not the symptoms. You can't fight the symptoms. Hey, get up early. Why don't you get up early? Why don't you want to go to school? If you're just shouting at your kid that he doesn't want to go to school and you're not finding out what the real problem is, then you're missing the point here. Maybe someone is bothering him. Maybe he's getting bullied. Maybe there's a whole bunch of kids who are not talking with him. Maybe he feels shy. You should help him, not be angry with him all the time. And that's why I'm getting back to this point, because I think this is the real source here. If you see that there is a problem, you have to make your communication with your kids much, much better. Even though he's not worthy for a reward because the way he acts, and if I acted like this, my parents would punish me, and why, if he doesn't want to go to school, I have to take him out to a barbecue or to a restaurant or to the beach or to Miami Beach. It's not worthy it's not fair.
He doesn't deserve it.
He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it as a reward, but as a cure to find out what the real problem is. I think it's something that, I'm not saying for every small red light, take him to Miami Beach, okay? There's different levels. But if you understand that for our generation, our sensitive souls, you have to be much, much more accurate and sensitive and find out what the real problems is. And bullying is one of the main causes for post-trauma with kids these days. And the phenomenon is much, much more common than we want it to be. So we have to be aware and have the right tools to help those kids.
So one more point then is that basically parents also need to be comfortable to ask for help. If they see a red light, they see a red flag, they're not sure what to do, they don't know whether they should be rewarding certain behavior, whatever it is, they should also...
Totally, I think it starts with the parents, because the parents are the first one to see the problem. The parents and the teachers, but the parents are more close to their kids. And if the parents know how to do first aid, yes, to do the first things when they see a problem, if the parents wouldn't be there for them, who would?
So at an organization like Hakshiva, where we're there for the whole family, that's really very important. People should feel free.
Of course. For every small thing, you can get good advice. In 50% of the cases, it will be nice. But for the other 50%, it can be life-saving. So don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. It's very, very important. We're in the generation, there is a book wrote Dr. Gabor Mate. He is a doctor, a Holocaust survivor, a Canadian doctor. And he wrote a book. I have it. It's called, I don't know the name in English. In Hebrew, it's called B'mamlechet haruchot hare'evot. In the kingdom of the hungry ghosts, I think.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book this thick. In his book, he's writing that as a doctor, he sees so many mental illnesses like depression and anxieties and suicidal. And the main cause for all those phenomenon is post-trauma. And he said, I am a doctor. I learned 7 years. And the post-trauma only was a few slide shots in one presentation. That's it. No one trained me to the major illness that causes most of the mental illness, and also many of the physical illnesses as well. No one taught me about it. Why is that? I don't know, maybe 50 years ago, it wasn't that common. Maybe 50 years ago, people were more strong, less sensitive. In our days, this is the number one cause for addictions, suicidal anxieties, depression. This is the number one. And bullying is one of the main reasons for that sickness of post-trauma. So we have to be aware of it. And if we won't be aware of it as parents, and we won't know how to deal with it when we see the symptoms, who would?
So it's not an exaggeration to say that getting involved and being more aware of bullying and trying to prevent it ultimately could be saving lives.
It is saving lives. I think it's very, very important. And in any way we can raise the awareness for it, I think it's the biggest mitzvah. It's because it's life-saving. We want to help save lives. We have to do whatever we need to prevent one of the biggest problems that is causing all those awful troubles that I mentioned.
Rav Dan Tiomkin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Sorry again for my poor accent. And
you have a great accent.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, you're good in communication. You're helping me.
Thank you so much. I feel great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.